Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I want to talk today about the conditioning of Germans, not only Germans, but I want to talk about Germans today. We know that the normies in Germany, especially, are very much conditioned by what the media says, where they put their focus on. What they said on the agenda, what gets into the news cycle and what vanishes from the news cycle. And Germans are really susceptible to that. It's almost like what the mainstream and public broadcasting media outlets, what they talk about, that is what Germans think and talk about. And that is very dangerous in my opinion. That is why it's so important that many people unplug from this mainstream or even state media. Yeah, and I want to give you some examples, and I also want to categorize it a little bit. So, for example, I think there is a spatial sort of conditioning, and what I mean by that is that when the mainstream media talks about events that are far away or that happen in faraway countries on the other side of the planet or very like thousands of kilometers or miles away, then they think that's relevant to us and they talk about it. Yeah? And when things happen right here that are on the same order of magnitude or even more relevant or worse or tragic or what have you, and they happen right here in their own communities, in their own cities, in their own country, then Germans keep very quiet about this and they don't think about it, they don't talk about it, and things that happen on the other side of the planet, that's really important and that's what everyone talks about. Isn't that interesting how conditioned they are and how easy they can be switched like that? And the other thing is it's related maybe, but that's conditioning in time. Their transient behavior of what they focus on is very much controlled by our state media, by our public broadcasting, by the mainstream media, and that is they sometimes forget very, very extreme events very, very fast. Sure, when it's very extreme, you have to talk about it. But then, after like half a week or a couple of days, 1 week, what have you, poof, it's vanished again. It's gone. Nobody talks about it anymore. It's like it never happened. But then there are some things that are maybe not that significant for us, not that important, but we talk about it for a year. Yeah, it basically never goes away. It is pretty much like the January events from Washington in the US. It's warmed up again and again and again, and it never really gets out of the news cycle. And it stays also in people's minds because, once again, especially some older folks, or I'm talking in generalities, of course, especially the older generation, they stick to television news. Also in the US, but also in Germany. And you see that in their voting behavior, for example. Like we had elections now in Lower Saxony, for example, and it was pretty much the older generation that voted Social Democrat. Very clear behavior there. And of course, you probably know what I'm talking about. Let's make some examples here. We know, for example, that in the land of the Persians, right now, there is some uproar, there is some civil disobedience, and of course, my heart goes out to these poor people that are. I've never lived there. I've never even visited there. All I know from the news, but it's pretty clear that there are some very strict rules there on how you should walk around in public and what you can and can't do. And of course, I wouldn't want to live under rules like these, so I can understand that especially the younger generation, they rebel against this. And then the state oppresses them and cracks down on their protest, and then some people get injured or even lose their lives, and that's tragic. But does it have anything to do with us here? I mean, should it be front page news for weeks or even months? I don't think so. And then there are things that are happening right here in Europe. In France, for example, we had a very drastic case recently, very recently. And in Germany or Austria, we have similar cases all the time. It happens on a daily basis. Yeah? It happens every weekend. It happens all the time. But it's not front page news. It never is. If things like that were to happen, for example, in Japan, I know for a fact that that would be front page news, and there would be things that they would do about it. But not here. No, we don't talk about it. We talk all day long about what happens in the in the Middle East, yeah, about the struggle of the people there and the atrocities, but we never talk about what's happening right here, yeah. And then an example for the other effect, related but different, yeah. And that is this temporal behavior I talked about. Yeah? In the US, there was in the year 2001, there was a very drastic event in September in New York. And that was a big thing. And everyone talked about it all the time. And it was a big event, sure. We don't know everything about this, and we probably never will. But it was a big event. And now, there was also a big event that happened in the Baltic Sea. Yeah? Near, I talked about this, yeah? The blowing up of of 2 pipelines, yeah, going from Russia to Germany. That is a big event. That is a attack on the energy supply of Europe, on the gas supply of Europe. And yeah, of course, it was in the news. People talked about it. But now, almost no one talks about it anymore. So what we got to hear was, oh, the Swedish, they investigated, but they don't want to share their information with the Germans. Or with the Russians, of course, that goes without saying. But, you should really wrap your head around that, what that means. The Swedish don't share their investigation results with German authorities. They say, oh no, that's sensitive stuff. The Germans never get to see that. And also the Germans have some information, but they don't disclose it. They say, oh, that's disturbing stuff. We don't want to... Yeah, that's sensitive. Let's not talk about it anymore. Huh? And it's very similar to what happened under the Obama administration, not in magnitude of the event, but in the reaction. It came out that Angela Merkel's phone was, how do you call that, a wiretap, or it was listened to, or, basically they monitored Angela Merkel's phone communication. And it came out. And Angela Merkel didn't even comment on it. The media, they reported about it, but they dropped it as if it was nothing. Yeah, under the Obama administration, they listened to the German chancellor's phone conversations. And they just ignored it. Like, nothing happened, sensitive, awkward, let's not talk about this anymore. And it's the same now. Because we all know, probably, that the culprit is the same, and that's just so sensitive, and it makes us feel uncomfortable to talk about that. It's like a kid that's bullied, and it acts as if the bullying doesn't happen. Yeah? It's kicked all the time and insulted, but it's just, turning the other cheek, looking away, like hoping that it stops when it just ignores the bully. This is how it is right now. Yeah, and the German public in general, and I know that for a fact, because I know what Germans talk about. I live here, and this is why I think it is, for me, safe to say that this conditioning is working very well. So if the media just reports in a certain way, if the media covers something or stops covering something or is not talking about something, then they actually think that the significance of an event is proportional or can be estimated by the media coverage or by how much time or how much time the media dedicates to something, for how long or in what kind of way they talk about something. Like if they scandalize something or if they treat it as if it's pretty normal and standard and we shouldn't make a big deal out of it. So that is directly transferred to the minds of German normies. And I think they're very well conditioned, and that is something, I wanted to talk about today so that you get an idea of how powerful this conditioning is. When what is covered in the media is turning into the reality of people or how they see reality. There is almost no difference anymore because they don't think about it critically. They don't think, wow, someone just blew up our gas pipeline. Isn't that significant? Oh, no, it's not in the news. It's not on TV anymore, so it's not important. Yeah. Or wow, a lot of children are losing their lives here, and bad things are done to them. But the media doesn't talk about it, so how bad can it really be? And then, oh, whoa, like thousands of kilometers away, police officers did something bad to women. Yeah, that is very important to us directly, here, right now. Yeah, sorry, but that is not rational behavior. That is very disturbing, very disturbing. But it's the reality here in good old Germany. Let me know how it is in your country, of course, and what you have to say about that. Leave a comment down below. Servus, Kameraden.